spotlight abilities?
Yes, I absolutely can.
Great, okay.
So Shiann, I've spotlighted you, but do you need me to make you the host so that you can manage it?
If you can just make me co-host.
Okay. So I'm sorry, just 1 second here.
It should be like the blue little dots at the corner.
Yep. For whatever reason, I needed to remove you from Spotlight in order to do that. There we go.
This is the interpreter. I'm so sorry to interrupt, but for your recording, do you need the interpretation in the recording for future? Okay. I'm trying to think if we pin me or if we spotlight me.
I'm gonna add a spotlight to you.
Perfect.
I'm gonna spotlight you too.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And these will all be captioned, but it is great to also have the interpreting.
Okay, great. Okay, so good morning, everyone. Oh, I'm signing. I'm sorry. Go ahead, interpreter. Thank you. That's what you're here for today. Hi, everybody. I'm super duper excited to get this presentation going. Guys, I dreamt about it. Okay, so that's how I know this is serious for me. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and start to share this presentation. Oh. Okay, so today my capstone project was a voiceover for beginners. And so that was the course that I took for 6 weeks. Oh, is my interpreter frozen?
Yes. Hi, I'm Carolyn. I'm the other interpreter. I'm sorry to interrupt. It looks like Krista is frozen, so I'll go ahead and take over.
Okay, well, let me spotlight you so that they can see. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. We should be good to go. All right, so just a slight introduction of who I am. My name is Shiann. I'm from Cleveland, Ohio. This is my 7th year in college. I went to a community college. Then I went to college at UNCG, the University of North Carolina, Greensboro. And then now I have settled at RIT as my final destination in my college career. And so my degree is going to be in a BS degree in applied arts and sciences. And so while I'm here, I actually work full-time for a group called Sunshine 2.0, which is a traveling theater troupe. And so I'm the interpreter and voice actor for that company. And they are here today. I love you guys. But COVID hit, guys. So we would typically be touring everywhere, and we would be performing live, and we would be doing stage plays, and I would voice live. But then, you know, we can't travel now, right? And so now it's completely changed the entire trajectory of my job. What do I do now? I'm used to voicing live, but now I have to record myself and record shows. Like, it's just a completely different ballgame. And so people started to really like encourage me, like, oh, you should get into voice acting. You have a nice voice. You have a nice voice. And I'm like, dude, I don't know. I'm kind of scary. So I was like, I don't know. But then now that I'm here, you know, this kind of pushed me to take a step and try something that I've never tried before, which led me to Gravy for the Brain. And so Gravy for the Brain is a complete training, education, mentoring event and ongoing career resource for voiceover artists and voice actors. Gravy for the Brain offers all services to VOs, which is voiceovers, from complete novice, which would be me, to expert level working professionals. So the first thing I want to say is, or talk about, is what's the difference between a voice artist and a voice actor? So a voice artist is somebody who you hear on the radio, or like, for example, RIT makes us do like sexual harassment or discrimination courses. And if you don't want to read it, you would just click the little play button and you would listen to somebody read it to you. And so that is a voice artist. Whereas a voice actor is someone who is probably have a background or history in drama, in theater. They have some type of training, and they're going to be your people who do more of your animations, like your movies and your cartoons, or gaming, the voices in the gaming background. They're going to be your voice actors. So there are a slight difference, even though people tend to kind of use them interchangeably, but they do have different fields. So here was my plan. I got on Gravy for the Brain, which is a professional training course. And I took the novice course because I don't know anything about this, right? Started from scratch. And so I looked at it. The training was had 23 modules. I broke that down between 6 weeks. And then so I did 3 to 4 modules a week. So the other big question is, why vlog it? What is significant about vlogging the experience? I believe that vlogging allows for great reflection. And so when you can vlog, you can kind of see your thought process over a course of time. You get to see like the struggles or the frustrations you had one day compared to the next day. You get to see your success of accomplishing something versus the beginning when you were like, how am I going to do this? And you get to see your growth overall. And I think growth is the biggest thing about vlogging, that you get to see a full transition of the beginning of experience to an end, and you get to see how you've become a different person. So with that, I did vlog 6 weeks. However, the vlog is like 15 minutes. So I have condensed the vlog till about 4 minutes, and I did want to show you kind of an excerpt of my vlog. So enjoy this little snippet.
Okay, so today is day 1 of vlogging my experience with Gravy for the Brain. And this is a website that is meant to like coach and mentor and prepare future voice actors for the real world. So I'm really nervous, even though it's virtual. I'm still nervous because I don't know what I can do.
Thank you so much for becoming a member. You've just made one of the best decisions in your voiceover career. We're continuing to offer that same personalized teaching in our mentoring forums and live mentoring classes. Whenever you have a question or you want to join one of our mentoring classes to get real-time feedback on your skills and progress, our mentors are always there to help you on every step of your voiceover journey.
Hello, and welcome to the VoiceOver for Beginners course. This course acts as a complete introduction for beginners and also as a refresher course for more experienced voice artists. I'm J. Michael Collins, and this guy right here, that's Hugh Edwards.
Hi. Yes, I'm Hugh, and I'm a voice director and a casting director.
So here's where I decided to go ahead and click on the beginner voiceover course. And there were 23 modules, and as you can see, and I divided that up by 6 weeks, which gave me about 3 to 4 modules a week. And here's that list.
The art of good communication, which is key to being a voiceover artist.
And then we'll be looking at preparing for voiceover sessions. So we'll show you how to warm up your voice, how to prepare for the performance, and work on your breathing techniques. We'll discover the core and fundamental voiceover techniques that all good VOs need to know. We'll show you how to give a pre-performance level check. And then Hugh will direct me in the booth to illustrate a real live directed session. We'll show you how you can become a voiceover artist and all the essential tips and tricks that you need to know.
All right, so today is week 2. So this week I'm doing modules 5, 6, 7, 8. So right now I have just learned that the 6 main areas of voiceovers are red leather, yellow leather, red leather, yellow leather, red leather, yellow leather.
That's a workout.
A voice sweep. And so that's like going from your lowest register all the way up and all the way back down. It sounds like this. It's official! This is step 1 to potentially having a great career in voice acting, and it's just a step. So I'm very proud. This is great. Thank you, RIT, for pushing me to do this. You guys are awesome. Bye. Oh, okay. Yeah, so that's my vlog. Well, that's only literally 5 minutes. It was like 10 more minutes of that, of more of my experience, of course. So, which was really exciting. I mean, even to watch it back, I'm like, oh my gosh. So some of the summary of other things that you did not get to see that I wanted to talk about is that I learned was about posture. How do you, like if you're in a recorded session and you're sitting, how to sit, how to stand, you know, how to control your diaphragm, how to breathe. And so I found that posture is significantly like a big deal when it comes down to voicing, and how your body and how it sits actually matters. And then so now that I'm doing this for my job, I find myself like trying to like sit up or like do more to make sure that I'm applying the things that I've learned. Something else is hydration. You have to drink a lot of water. I mean, they were talking about like if you're doing a session, you know, maybe drinking water 2 hours, starting to drink water constantly 2 hours before the session, just to make sure that your throat and everything is not dry, your mouth is not dry. So, and in my longer vlog, you see that I kind of talk about how I went and I did everything you wasn't supposed to do right before doing the voiceover. I ate the food I wasn't supposed to eat. I didn't drink enough water. And then I could recognize the difference. I was like, wow. I'm glad I vlogged that, because it was a learning experience. When you don't listen, what happens? So, so that was something that I learned that was super cool to realize I learned that. Something else I learned is about the distance you should sit between the mic. So if I had more of a professional setting, I would set my mic up and I would make sure I'm about 5 to 8 inches away from the mic, just so that it blocks any of like saliva that flies from your mouth when you're talking, and just so it doesn't have like any harsh sounds. Another cool thing that I learned was IFPD, which is inhale, frame, pause, and deliver. And so what that sounds like is, normally when we talk, we don't realize the noises our mouth make when we talk. So we start a sentence, for example, and we got that. Did you guys get to hear like that little smack that happened? So apparently when you're doing a voiceover, engineers hate that sound. And so they have to manually go in and cut any sounds that sound like a prep for your mouth. And so what they developed is inhale, frame, pause, which would sound like, for example, if I say the sentence, my mom is beautiful, right? And so I'm gonna say that naturally. My mom is beautiful. But if I was to apply this, what I would do is I would take a deep breath. I would frame my mouth to the letter of the first sentence, which is M for my mom, right? So I would go, and then the pause is clearly what I just did, the waiting, right? And then I would deliver the line so that it sounds something like, my mom is beautiful, or my mom is happy, or whatever the sentence was, which is pretty much to prevent the prep sound. You just go straight into a smooth sentence, and it's clean and it's clear. And so that's something that I realized in my vlog. I could hear it. I could hear the smacks, guys. I was like, what is that? And I was like, wow, this method actually really works. And so I can't unhear it now. And then I learned how to set up my mic in studio. And I learned the biggest thing is practice some more, because these are all things that doesn't come natural. And you literally have to make a conscious effort to do these things. So those are just some of the summary of what I learned. And now I have time for questions and answers if you guys have any for me.
Meg, do you want to start this time?
Yes, I would be happy to. So Shiann, that was fabulous. And I have to tell you that your enthusiasm is contagious. I'm so interested in this. One is because of the pandemic, unfortunately, I'm consuming a lot of television, a lot of Netflix and, Amazon Prime, Hulu. I actually am too embarrassed to list all the subscriptions that I currently have. But what I have noticed is that a lot of the shows that used to be subtitled now have voiceover. And so, shows that are not in English, I watch a lot of Welsh, Finnish detective shows, and now they are voiceover in English. They still have the subtitles, but I'm really interested. So is that a voiceover artist or a voiceover actor? And so that's my first question. And my second question is, what do you want to do next now that you have this new skill set? I'm assuming that your hope is that Sunshine 2.0 is back and running and on the stage, but so that's a two-part question.
Okay, yeah, so for that would actually be a voice actor for those, which, now that I look back for Sunshine 2.0, that's what I was doing. I was voice acting this entire time because I'm being a character. And so, okay. So that would be a voice actor. And again, because voice artists are probably people who are doing more of radio, more of your e-learning, more of that type of deal. And so that would be voice acting. And then the second part, what do I hope to do after? Well, I mean, to be honest, some of the plan is actually, when Sunshine 2.0, if we can travel and tour again, is to kind of keep some of that balance. We kind of want to keep doing plays, pre-recorded plays. So I kind of will be incorporating voice acting more, even when we can travel and kind of move more freely. So now that I have this trait, my first thing is to try to honestly apply what I learned here, since I'm in a position where I can kind of practice it now. But honestly, if I really want to be professional in this, I have to get more training. So I will have to keep doing Gravy for the Brain to keep learning and seeing what my niche is. Because what I'm finding out is that one thing that they said is, if you are a novice and you start trying to send demo reels, which is pretty much a voice demo, how you do self-tapes, audition tapes, you would do it for your voice. They remember you. If you send in a video, a novice demo reel, they will blackball you, kind of like, hey, don't go to that person, they're not professional. And I don't want that. So I will have to get more training and then probably get a mentor to kind of help me find which area is more of my niche, and then take it from there, apply for jobs.
Fantastic. Well, I hope you'll keep us posted. Are you graduating?
Yes.
Yay. Okay. Well, congratulations. I hope you'll keep us posted on what you do. And if you have any recordings or like YouTube videos or anything of Sunshine 2.0, I'd love to see it.
Oh, yes, of course.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You are so welcome.
So, Shiann, one of the things I like about this, we used to have symposia where you'd have a poster and you stand next to your poster, like a poster session. But since we went online with these presentations, one of the things I really like is that the students come up with different ways to present, right? I mean, we asked for a PowerPoint presentation, but that's a guideline. So some students, such as yourself, go outside that box, and that's one of the things that makes this whole presentation session, these sessions, interesting. We've already had a couple that just went outside the box, so it's really nice to see something a little bit different. So I was gonna say at the beginning, before I started to understand more what you were talking about, I was going to ask you, what's the difference between following your progress in something like this in the journal in written form as opposed to vlog? But I guess now you've pretty much answered that by, obviously a journal doesn't have an audio component, let alone a video component. So, but still, I guess it's the same sort of thing. You still want to track your progress, but this is obviously a lot more rich. You mentioned you were a conservative. Maybe rightly so, in picking the beginner training thing. So are you now going to go on beyond that? I assume if there's a beginner, there must be an intermediate and so on and so on. Are you going to do more of them?
Oh, I think I will. I think it's a great tool to have. I'm realizing that if I'm going to be, even for the fact that, again, with my job, I voice for my colleagues, and those voices have characters and they have personalities. And I was doing that completely novice, from scratch. I had no training, no anything. And so now that I have this resource where I can learn how to preserve my voice, because one thing I found that was important was the warm up. And so while I was warming up, I realized I really wasn't taking care of my voice. And so imagine being novice, don't know how to take care of your voice. And we're going on show after show after show after show, and then I'm like, now I'm realizing that, having those resources and tools actually makes me a better artist. It makes me a better teammate, and it makes me a better voiceover artist. So I definitely think I'm going to continue to take these courses just to have it in my back pocket. And even when I'm not here at RIT or with Sunshine 2.0 anymore, I think it's just great to have these tools, because you just never know what a job might require or need, or if this skill will kind of give me a one-up on somebody else who might also be good, but I got some voiceover training now. And so I might have, they might pick me.
Because I assume that the intermediate class, if that's what it's called, intermediate course, must introduce new skills or more developed. They must build on what they've already taught you. Are these, so this is self-paced, so presumably there wasn't anybody else, you didn't see anybody else taking the course at the same time. It was just you interacting with the pre-recorded module, right?
Yes. So pretty much, I'm sorry, I was just trying to make sure the interpreters.
Sure.
So yeah, it was pretty much self-paced, which was really nice for me because I work full time. So, I would have hated to been in a situation where I had to be in class or something where attendance was taken. But so how you couldn't really see it too much in the vlog, but there's like so many, there's like different boxes, right? So you have beginner voiceover, and then they have some courses that are 100% gaming. Like if you know for a fact you want to be into video games, if you know for a fact you want to do commercial, you know, you want to do animation. I mean, they have so many courses. It's kind of mind blowing that you can continue, but everything does build. One thing about Gravy for the Brain that they did was they pretty much had it where you couldn't move to the next course without passing the quiz. Like you had to do 100% on the quiz in order to move on. So you couldn't even really kind of BS the process. You had to know the information in order to get to the next place, which I thought was I mean, you couldn't even get a 90. It's not like you couldn't miss one. It had to be 100% or nothing at all. So wow. That was really a cool, I think, quiz that they had in between. Now, one thing I didn't kind of like it a little bit, because sometimes they would kind of throw a twist in the quiz that they didn't necessarily discuss. And then I'm like, but y'all didn't teach us that. You didn't tell me. But either way, I mean, that I ain't like that a little bit. But at the same time, I definitely feel like I know the information because I was tested on it through the module process.
Teachers love to do that, and all students everywhere hate it. Okay, so we have a large number of participants, and I'm not going to take any more time to ask questions. I don't know if anybody else who listened to Shiann would like to ask a question at this point.
I think Caleb has a question.
Oh, I see Caleb and Sophia, just to let you know. I don't want Sophia to feel skipped.
Yeah, this is my dead name. My real name is Caleb.
Oh, Caleb, sorry.
No, you're all good. I also have a theater background, and my major was animation, so I know a little bit about voice acting in that realm. Have you ever thought about? I know it says you're touring right now, but I know that like in Dallas, Funimation employs like a lot of voice actors. Have you ever thought about something like that where you work for a studio?
Honestly, no, I haven't. You know, I think I'm scratching the surface on a very big industry that I've never even thought about. And it's only coming to my attention because COVID hit, you know?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I'm not, to be completely honest, I'm not even really familiar with just the different lanes or avenues that I could potentially go, which is something that as I continue to get mentored, or as I continue to talk to other people who do this, like seriously do this as their craft, I think I will be able to like kind of see like, oh, I didn't even know I could work for a studio, to be honest. You know, I was like thinking, okay, here's my field, this is what I can do, but I never thought about it. But now that you didn't tell me, I can think about whether or not a studio would be, but I would want to have way more training before that so that they don't blackball me.
Yeah, I hear that Funimation in Dallas, like if you live in Dallas and you're a voice actor, it's very easy to like start getting work there and then move on. So just a thought.
Let me that down.
Okay, we have time for one more question before we move on to Caleb. It's now 9:30, so anybody else have any more questions for Shiann? Hearing none. Thank you very much, Shiann. Great presentation. Like I said, it's always nice to see you thinking a little outside the box, so I really enjoyed that. And Caleb, you're up.
Thank you, guys.
So I am not as familiar with Zoom, so I'm going to do my best. Okay. Okay. Can everyone see the PowerPoint?
Looks great.
Okay, perfect. Okay, give me one more second. Okay. So, hello, my name is Caleb Edgar, and this is my presentation for my capstone project. My capstone is Ableism and Classism at RIT. Was it just me? And it's a two-part project. The first part is a personal comic that describes my experience as an animation student. And the other part is a compilation of ideas and suggestions to improve the animation program that I brainstormed in interviews with a few professors. Now, before we get started, this presentation does have a content warning. This project contains some potentially triggering topics, specifically in mental health and suicide. So I just wanted to let everyone know, and if you would like to leave, I totally understand. Okay, let's get started. So part one. So as I said, the first part is a personal comic about my experience at RIT. As you will see, my poor experience in the animation department had a very big effect on me and my life. And I use this comic as a form of catharsis, letting everything out and processing everything. It's been really hard, but actually really helpful to go back and think of it as one completed event, kind of bringing it out of my mind and into something tangible and shareable. My hope is that this comic can show everyone that there are people like me who struggled like immensely in the animation program, and to kind of humanize us so that people can understand why change is really important. I also made a video where I narrated the comic, but it was also 15 minutes long. So instead, each slide is going to be 2 pages, and I've taken all the illustrations from those pages, and then I will kind of give a more concise breakdown of what happened in the text. So let's start the comic. There we go. So for the first 2 pages, the first page is an introduction to give some information that shaped my experience at RIT. I talk about how I have been diagnosed with OCD, generalized anxiety disorder, insomnia, and I'm currently being diagnosed with autism. It's a very expensive procedure, so it takes a while. Also, my family lost most of its money when I was in high school, so my mom helped me with tuition, but my day-to-day expenses were completely up to me. The next page is about my first year. RIT was my first choice school, and I came in dual degree in animation and motion picture science. Motion picture science being engineering for the film industry. I was enjoying my new independence. I was best friends with my roommate. I had a big group of friends that I hung out with all the time. And it was actually okay. I had an insane amount of work because of my 2 majors, but that was kind of sold to us as the college experience, and people thought I was cool for having 2 majors. So I kind of wore my overworked tiredness as a bit of a badge of honor, to be honest, which I later realized was not as productive as maybe it should have been. My second year was when things really started to take a turn. I didn't have a meal plan, so I had to buy and make everything that I ate. To pay for this, I needed a job, but with 2 majors, I only had time to work about 3 hours a week at minimum wage, so money was really tight. I met my amazing boyfriend, who's sitting over there, but I was growing apart from pretty much everybody else. Because with my class workload and my job, I just didn't really have the time. Eventually, it came all to a head when I realized that I just couldn't keep it all up. So I had to make the really hard decision to quit MPS and just do animation and my job. Because of this, the first semester of my 3rd year was definitely better. I was just down to 1 major. I could work way more. In that time, I was diagnosed with OCD, and my schoolwork was much more manageable. However, in the second semester, I had to do a film, so things started to get bad again. For films, you have a semester to complete them, and basically if you don't, then it's an auto fail, and you actually often have to change majors. It really is like you either do it or that's it. My film completely took over my life. I devoted all my time to it, often not eating or sleeping. And so my mental health took a really big dive. My OCD got really bad. I was washing my hands for hours. Like my hands would be bleeding because I was so stressed. And I was starting to have frequent shutdowns where I couldn't move, I couldn't speak. I was just stuck, which is very normal for autistic people. And the crazy thing about this is that was just the culture of the animation department. The majority of people, like pretty much all of the students in my class were not eating. A lot of us weren't sleeping. I had classmates who went to the hospital due to signs of overwork, things like heart murmurs, from the anxiety of it all. And the professors knew about it. They knew that we weren't eating. They knew that we weren't sleeping, but they just kind of didn't do anything about it. It was just kind of, they were like, oh, you guys should really be eating, but it was never actually like talked about. So yeah, I finished my film, but I was a wreck. Like I was so tired and kind of broken. So then, knowing that going into my first semester of my fourth year, I knew that I had to do another film. And knowing how much it wrecked me the first time, I decided that I had to switch gears. I got a tiny hole in the wall apartment that had no AC, it had no heat, but at least it was mine. I decided to do stop motion instead of 2D animation because it was something I was more interested in. But it didn't help. After I was denied a room to put my set in, I was told that I could take all the equipment that I needed out of the sofa cage, which is basically a place where you can rent equipment. I got all the permissions and I started working, but 3 weeks in, they denied me for basically no reason. They literally just said no because they could. They're like, oh, you're taking it out for too long, even though I got permission from literally the head of the department. So then I had to buy a camera, lights, a tripod, the software, which was $250, and I had to buy all the materials to actually make my set. So I had no money. I actually had to take out a loan from my boyfriend just so that my account rested at zero. I was cold, I was hungry most of the time, and I still had the pressure of doing my film. So my mental health was really sliding to rock bottom. But I did finish. So yeah, when I came back for the second semester of my fourth year, I was completely burnt out. I had been working 3 years. I was working so hard. I'd been through so much and I just was absolutely burnt out. And my classes were turning out to be much more work than I hoped, especially one class, which was completely terrifying to me. So I approached the professor. I explained that I would try my best. I was worried that my work would be to the standards of my classmates and that I would work hard, but I just wanted to let her know. And she basically told me that she didn't care and would treat me the same as everybody else. So 4 days into the semester, I went home with my boyfriend and I was joking about how I would rather die than stay in school. And he started crying because he was worried that it wasn't a joke. And he was right. That night I had a panic attack so bad I actually had to go to the ER and I never went back to school after that. I only made it to Thursday. So yeah, after that I went on a leave of absence and I left school, but I was so empty. I was so ashamed that I had failed everyone. So I ended up picking a date, and I started getting everything in order. I was completely ready to die. And then just a week or so out, the pandemic hit. And it totally ruined everything. My boyfriend moved in with me, which was supposed to only last a week. And now we've been living together for over a year. And obviously I couldn't do it with him there. So I waited, and then the pandemic kept going and the date passed and I was still here. So after a couple weeks after the date had passed, I eventually opened up to my boyfriend about it, and he was really, really supportive, and he helped me get a therapist and a psychiatrist. I went on meds that really helped me a lot, and I went to work at Olive Garden, where it turned out I was really good at my job and everyone really liked me, and I made a bunch of friends. So that kind of helped me gain my confidence. And so I decided in the end that I would come back to RIT, but in SOIS instead of the animation department, because I just couldn't finish it there. And really just to kind of do this project to kind of shed light on the elephant in the room in the animation department, just the problem that the ridiculous workload, the very competitive and intense do or die attitude kind of perpetuated by the program, and how it clearly affects poor and disabled students way more than it should. So that was the comic, and the comic was about me, but I wanted to try and make a bit more of a lasting difference. So I had the part 2, which is the faculty interviews. So through the interim director, 5 professors volunteered to meet with me so that I could get their perspective on the situation and so that we could brainstorm some possible solutions. The main reason that I wanted to brainstorm solutions with the professors as opposed to just interviewing them about their experience is that, in my opinion, the animation department doesn't give the legally required reasonable accommodation. So most things in the document are suggestions of way to reach it without a complete overhaul of the program. So after compiling everything, I ended up with 5 categories. Each category has several points, but I'm just going to touch on the biggest ideas from each. So the first category is problems with communication between professors and students about their needs. And the main takeaway from this is that communication really does go both ways. Both parties need to be willing and patient so that things could be worked out. And there may need to be some training on both sides of the conversation to more easily reach outcomes that are needed. The second is the intersection between mental and physical health and financial stress. Here it's more about how the professors need to realize that the time spent at work, the time making meals, the stress of money troubles, and the distraction of things like being hungry, in the end, take a horrible toll. And support systems need to be created because these students are taking on a huge burden that's just not present in their wealthy counterparts. The third is problems that professors face, which I think is important because the animation department has been growing faster than faculty are being hired. And because of this, the struggles in the students are kind of mirrored in the professors. They also have a very large workload, and that can make it harder for them to dedicate the time that they really need for each student. The next is sophomore films. The stakes are so high for sophomore films, given that this is the first time the majority of students have ever taken a project of this type, of this scale. And so I gave a few suggestions about how to make this class easier on poor and disabled students while keeping in their very specific parameters. Like, you have to make a complete film, you have to go through all the processes, but I suggested things like providing prompts so that people can come up with ideas faster. So lastly, ideas for creating a more successful learning environment. This section gives 6 examples of ways that the program could allow for more reasonable leniency for its students. The main one being a department-specific person that students could go to if they feel that their anxiety might be affecting their schoolwork, for example. Then that person could help facilitate the conversation between the student and professor, because something that a lot of the professors said was that they often don't feel comfortable having those conversations. They don't want to cross a line, and they're not trained to have these kind of conversations. So they really wanted someone that could help them through the process, basically. So with that, that's the general outline of the document. My hope is to submit the document to the department chair and the dean, who I've already talked to. Then they can decide how to move forward. Possibly it could be talked about at a town meeting, a staff meeting, and then the process can, we can start the conversation so that process can be made, basically. Awesome. Well, that's it. So thank you for listening. And do you have any questions?
I think it would be strange if we didn't have any questions. That is an amazing presentation, and you're very brave to have gone into that amount of detail. So I want to thank you for that. Anyway, I'm we've talked a lot, and I know a lot more about the first part, your comic. So the rest of the audience, maybe the rest of the audience not, but I want to talk about the interviews. So it sounded like, they went fairly well, but can you reflect a little bit on what the faculty, what the faculty's demeanor was, how they treated this opportunity to think about their program in ways that I'm sure, well, I'm not sure, but they probably hadn't thought about before. What was your sense of how they reacted to the issues that you were bringing up?
So yeah, so obviously the faculty that I talked to all volunteered, so they already were willing to have the conversation. So I think that kind of, it wasn't random. So I think that kind of helped. Like, everyone who I talked to seemed genuinely like they wanted to have this conversation, which was really nice. The general demeanor that I got from everyone is that they just had no idea what to do. They were like, we see that this is a problem. We're trying to fix it, but like, they just kind of didn't know how. It seemed like a lot of them felt uncomfortable with these conversations. A lot of the talk was like, like, we're not therapists. We don't know how to talk to people. So it was kind of hard because, I obviously went to professors and I would be like, hey, I'm having trouble in this. Can you just understand that? And a lot of times I got told no. So I think there's a weird disconnect between them wanting to help and them actually being able to give help, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point. I think that's a nail hit well on the head there. And were any of the professors you interviewed, had they been I don't know how big the department is. Were they people that you knew from being in their classes?
The only one that I had taken a full class with was one of my actually workshop film professors. The other two were 3D animations, so I didn't know them very well. And then one was new, and she wanted to talk about, like, she had been to, this is her 5th school. So she kind of had a bit more like general knowledge about colleges in general. So yeah, that's 5. Yeah, so I only actually had 1.
When you were done with the interview segment of your project, how did you feel that had been that's going to make a difference? Did you feel optimistic about those conversations and how they? I mean, you said how you think, you know, the options in front of the department chair and the dean, how they use this information that you've given them. Do you have a sense of optimism that it is going to make a difference?
I think that surprisingly COVID might have helped, because I think that people are realizing that they need to be a little bit more lenient in general. I know that all the professors were told to kind of slim down their workload a bit because everyone was remote. So I think that they're already kind of starting. So I think that it's very possible. I think it's really difficult because this program has been a certain way for a very long time. And I think that certain professors are very stuck in how they perceive what they're doing and not really caring about the students that get left behind. There's a lot of like, if you can't do this, then you don't deserve to. And I think that that's a mentality that really I think it's going to take some work to change, but I definitely think that it needs to be addressed.
Are you going to, I know you mentioned you talked with the dean. Are you going to share your comic with the dean?
Probably with the dean. I don't know about Tom, the director, just because he knows me, and I don't know if that would be awkward, but I'm definitely thinking about it. It's obviously very personal, but I think that someone has to say it. So if it has to be me, then it has to be me, I guess.
Are you graduating this semester?
Yes.
Okay. So you're going to be out of RAT. Have you thought about how you're going to keep tabs on what I hope, a process that I hope that you've been able to start?
I am currently in the process of joining the SOFA Discord, where alumni and current students can kind of talk about everything. So I'm going to kind of pop in there and be like, hey, so if you guys need anything, like I've been through this and I can help out if you need me.
All right. Thanks, Caleb. That was a great presentation. Meg?
Thank you.
Oh, Caleb, wow, that was really remarkable. And I have to say that your sincerity and authenticity is so disarming and very moving.
Thank you.
So, and immediately I say, you know, coming from an advising background and a couple different roles at RIT, I feel like, you know, I'm amazed at how brave and courageous you are to share such personal information. And yet I want to push you to share it more because I think it is so, so valuable. It's really moving. I think a lot of what you talk about, and clearly you have balanced your 5 recommendations with a lot of realism and a lot of like a very pragmatic approach. And I think that your overall message is really about this education, RIT, SOFA, you know, whatever the program needs to be a partnership. And I think that that is such an incredible message. And I think that, you know, in SOIS, and maybe this is what attracted you, along with the fact that you really needed to exit SOFA, but really, we want you to be co-producers of your educational journey. And I think that needs to translate into other programs, but also into the way that professors approach education. They are not delivering unto you, it's a partnership, right? So I so valuable. And I think what easily could have been, you know, a rant was not a rant at all. It was the antithesis of that. It was you really hoping for a solution. So I'm really, really impressed, and I hope that you will I'm thinking about ways in which you could share this in a way that's comfortable for you. But I really think it's so valuable. I'm so grateful for the pandemic.
Yeah, it really saved me.
I have not had very many moments, but I am truly grateful for the pandemic. And it sounds like a really great partnership with the person that's sharing this space with you. So I think that's fantastic. So here's my question. Sorry, lots of comments. The question is, you know, we just had someone from counseling and psych services come in and talk to our department because, you know, we know that students are struggling, and we really want to talk with faculty and advisors about, you know, ways in which we can be supportive at the beginning, at the middle, and at the end of the semester. I think we've moved a little bit in a positive direction, but I wonder, would it be a good recommendation to suggest embedding someone in SOFA from CAPS? And I don't know if one exists. I know that the person that spoke to us, so my question to our dean, Jim Hall, was, I want someone embedded with us, not that physically has to be with us, but a point person that we can say, oh my gosh, Dr. Walker, we've got a situation and he is our point, or she is our point person, or they. So I wonder what you think about that. And does that exist? It sounds like it might not.
It didn't exist when I was there. I think that they've started possibly putting one in. But I don't know exactly how it's implemented because I haven't been there. I think that it is really helpful. I think that the scariest thing for students is talking to professors about the fact that they need help, because there's a very big culture of kind of trying to stick it out on your own, you know? And a lot of the times you're faced with rejection, and that is really hard too, where you go and you try and ask for help and then you say no, and that's kind of almost more destructive than you just not asking. So I definitely think that someone, because the thing about professors is that they're not counselors, they're not advisors, they're teachers. They are in their subject. They're not trained for this. And if we're not going to train the professors, then there has to be someone that the students can go to where they can feel comfortable, like their information isn't going to be shared, that they're not going to be looked down upon by the professors and all that. And then also that helps the professors in figuring out what is beneficial for the students, because a lot of professors are just like, I don't know, do you need an extension? Is that what you need? I don't know. So like someone who can also guide them in the right direction of how to help with students. I think that is honestly what needs to happen.
Well, and it sounds like you've also hit upon you know, a culture issue that actually is so prevalent, you know, in an academic arena hugely. But I see it just in our regular American culture, which is the busier I am, you know, the more strung out, less sleeping, the more valuable I must be.
Yeah.
Which also means that the less care I dedicate to myself is better overall. Which of course that is a recipe for disaster. So I think it's really important that, especially in academia, but it is a challenge because I do think that some faculty instructors feel as though the harder something is, the more work I give, the more challenging, the less sleep and less food you're eating, the more rigorous my course must be. And I don't think that that's what we want to, you know, teach or reinforce for human beings.
And And another thing about that is that some people need different levels of care, and not everyone needs the same level of care. Like, I did well in school. I mean, I'm graduating with like a 3.4. Like, I didn't slouch in school. I was good, but the problem is that I just need a little bit more care than someone who maybe doesn't have to spend half their week working, or someone who doesn't have a um a neurodivergent problem where it just takes me longer to do things. And that's not my fault. It's my brain. I can do it just as good as the next person. I just need a little bit more time. And there's like, I shouldn't be punished and told that I don't deserve the degree just because it takes me 1 hour longer to do something than another person. Like, that just isn't fair. I see that. I know we're close to time, and I see that Shiann and Rachel both have questions.
Fantastic.
Shiann, do you want to go?
Yeah, I'll go. Well, first, I just really want to say I'm so proud of you. Like, I mean, this was really amazing. I mean, especially for me, I would never know. You know, I came into SOIS, so I don't know anything about how, you know, other colleges run. So I just want to say, like, I'm happy COVID hit too, because I really do think that you were called to do this. Like, I think this was your movement, and I think you're going to do it well. And I think you have been. So even though it was a struggle, I definitely see why you were the one chosen to do this. And I'm so proud of you. So first, I also want to say, I think your comics were amazing.
Thank you.
Because, you know, there's a page on Instagram, I can't remember the name, but like for like the BLM movement, they tend to, instead of showing it, they do it in a cartoon form so that people
Absolutely.
can process information without experiencing the immediate trauma of those. And so I think seeing the animation of it still gave me the core of what's happening without maybe so much of the immediate impact, you know? So I definitely like applaud you for that amazing choice. I think it was really great. I also want to ask, my question is, how much of this, because it's animation and film, and that's kind of a dog eat dog world, how much of that do you think is the reason why teachers tend to have a very cut and dry mentality? Because, you know, the real world is going to be like this, so let me start now. Like, do you think that plays a role where they think they're helping you for the real world, you know, for a real world quote unquote experience, and that's why maybe part of that is the grind culture and, you know, all that stuff mixed in? Do you feel like maybe that's playing a role in the insensitive treatment?
I definitely think so. We get told, I didn't really have time to touch upon this in my presentation, but it's a little bit addressed in my comic. We get told that, like, this is how the film industry is. Like, if you don't get your deadline in on time, they're gonna fire you and you're never gonna get a job, and all this stuff. And I did bring this up with some of the professors. I was like, I thought school was where you're like, the point of school is to give students a place to fail safely. They can do something wrong, and it's not the end of the world. They're not going to lose their job. They're not going to lose their family because they can no longer support themselves. Especially because this is the first time that a lot of people are doing this. I went into animation, and I didn't even have access to things like Photoshop because I couldn't afford them, and my computer wouldn't support it. So, like, they're taking people who have never done this stuff and then being like, you have to get it done the first try because in the film industry it's like this. And I tried to explain to them, like if you're perpetuating this idea now, you are literally setting up your students to be abused by the system. You're giving them no tools to break this cycle of abuse. You're telling them this is how it is, and if you don't do this, then you're gonna fail forever. And that's what, like, of course that's what they're gonna expect. I never understood that. Like, I think it definitely is the film culture, but I just don't understand why they feel that that system needs to be perpetuated, I guess.
Somebody else wanted to ask a question?
Yeah, I think Rachel's got her hand up.
Yeah, hi Caleb. I agree with everything and everyone else that they mentioned that your project is super powerful and important. Everything you mentioned totally resonates with a lot of students, especially trying to push through college with a lacking support system. My roommate is actually also an animation major, and she's trying to finish her senior thesis. And for the past 4 years I've known her, she's always talking about the department, especially with animation, and how hard it is, especially because they're really harsh with you guys. And it's nothing like the industry. And that's really discouraging, especially coming from high school and not even being like exposed to anything related to what you think you want to do. You and I faced a similar journey. I've been told that because I failed, or not even failed a class, that I won't be able to be a physician. And I've heard that all through 4 years of college. And it's very discouraging. And yeah, I mean, it's definitely really important to emphasize the growth that students need and exposure to the industry before, you know, tearing them down. Yeah, so I really like your presentation. Good job.
Thank you so much.
Are there any other questions? Okay. Well, I am very glad. What time is it now? 10:08. I'm very glad there was only 2 of you, because I don't know how we could have handled this if there had been 3 of you. So, Caleb, one phrase that you just used, which I think epitomizes what you tried to express here in your experience, is that school is a place where you ought to be able to fail safely. And I think if there was one phrase that came out of your whole project, and one that I hope is communicated successfully to the department, it would be that one. Anyway, I mean, of course, it's a balance. I mean, we are supposed to be preparing students, but I guess there are many ways to prepare somebody. Okay, thank you very much, everybody. There's all sorts of questions we could have asked, but we didn't have time. So hopefully you'll stay in touch, Caleb. And Meg, do you want to have the last word?
Sure. Congratulations to both of you on your pending graduation. Stephen normally says, don't forget, you've got a couple other papers that you need to also submit. We'd love to keep these recordings. You know, let us know after the fact if you don't want to, and hang in there. You are so close to the finish line. We're really proud of both of you. Fabulous presentations, and stay safe.
Bye, everybody, and thanks to the interpreter. Thanks, Krista, and I don't know whether our other interpreter is still here, but thank you both.
Thank you so much.